Hello good people, and welcome back to another math video. This time we are going to be covering the answers and kind of how to do the problems to your blast from the past number 2. Let's get started. So problem number 1 says, in 2 months, Micah spent a total of $305.43 on groceries. She spent $213.20 the first month. How much did she spend the second month? So the way I would see this problem is thinking like, here's the whole thing, and she spent $305.43, and we know that that's over 2 months. So in month 1, there's $213.20. So we're trying to figure out month 2 right here. This we can figure out by subtracting this part right here from this whole. So let's set that up. 305.43 minus 213.20, and very important to line up our decimals when we add and subtract decimals. 3 minus 0 is 3, 4 minus 2 is 2, decimal point. 5 minus 3 is 2, 0 minus 1, can't do that, we have to borrow from the 2, make this a 10. 10 minus 1 is 9, and I have 92.23. So my final answer is $92.23. All right, let's go to the next one. All right, problem number 2 says a hat costs $10.95 and a t-shirt costs $14.20. How much change will you receive from a $50 bill? So it looks like we're buying two different items here, one for $10.95 and one for $14.20. So let's figure out how much we spent first. So $10.95 plus $14.20. Make sure you line up your decimals. 5 plus 0 is 5. 9 plus 2 is 11. Put down the 1. Carry the 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So we spent $25.15, but that's not what the problem asks. It asks, how much change would you get from a $50 bill? So we're buying these items. We give the clerk $50. We're going to get some change. So to figure out your change, you need to subtract. So we would have 50, and we're going to be subtracting 25.15. Now to make this much simpler, or you can add that decimal point after the number, add in your zeros, and now we have a normal looking subtraction problem. Unfortunately, we've got to borrow all the way across, so let's go to the 5, make that a 4. This is going to become a 10, and then a 9, another 10, and then a 9, and then lastly we'll stick with this 10. Now I can finally subtract. 10 minus 5 is 5, 9 minus 1 is 8, decimal point. 9 minus 5 is 4, 4 minus 2 is 2. So my final answer is that I would get $24.85 change. Okay, problem number 3 says a hummingbird has a mass of 1.8 grams or 1 8/10 grams. How many grams are 6 hummingbirds plus the 4-gram nest? So we have 6 hummingbirds, each one weighing 1 8/10 grams, and then we also have this 4-gram nest. So we need to multiply the 6 and the 1.8 because that is happening each time for each of these birds. So here's my 1.8 times 6. 6 times 8 is 48. Put down the 8, carry the 4. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 4 is 10. 1 decimal point in the problem, so I need 1 decimal point in my answer. So right there is the mass of the 6 hummingbirds. But then it's saying plus the 4-gram nest. So 4 and 0/10, just so I can line up my decimal points. 8 plus 0 is 8. 0 plus 4 is 4. And 1 plus nothing is 1. So the total is 14 and 8/10 grams. That is my final answer. I will say when I looked at this, it reminded me a little bit of the algebraic expressions we were doing before we left the school. So I kind of saw this as 6n plus 4. So my 6 for 6 hummingbirds. My n is kind of like the mass of them. Here it is, 1 8/10 grams. plus another 4 for the nest. So once I do my substitution, I'd have 6 and 1 and 8/10 plus 4. We already did this multiplication right here, and we know that that is 10 and 8/10. And we also already did this addition, and we know that it would be 14 and 8/10. So we get the same answer, just looks a little differently. Okay, here we are, problem number 4. A giraffe can run 49 and 1400 feet per second. How far could a giraffe run in 1 and 8/10 seconds? The first thing I would think in my head is that this 49 feet, 49 and 1400, is very close to 50. And this 1 and 8/10 seconds is very close to 2 seconds. So it's kind of like if it does 50 feet in 1 second, how far would it go in 2 seconds? And 50 feet in the first second, 50 feet in the second, this is going to be 100 feet. That is not the correct final answer, but that's a decent estimate. I should have an answer that's in the 100 neighborhood. So the way I would solve this is I would say, well, I have 49 and 1400ths, and I'm multiplying that by 1 and 8/10 seconds. 8 times 4 is 32, put down the 2, carry the 3. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 3 is 11, put down the 1, carry the 1. 9 times 8 is 72, plus 1 is 73, carry the 7. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 7 is 39. Cross out my carries so I don't do those again. Holding 0. Now the second round, I'm multiplying by 1 here, so that means that all those digits are going to stay the same. So I can just kind of write those right in. I don't even have to think about the multiplication. Now I just add these up. 2, 1 plus 4 is 5, 3 plus 1 is 4, 9 plus 9 is 18, put down the 8, carry the 1. 1 plus 3 is 4, plus 4 is 8. Let's see, I had 1, 2, 3 decimal places in my problem, so I need 1, 2, 3 decimal places in my answer. So my final answer is 88 and 452 thousandths feet. Now again, it's not exactly the same as the 100, but 88, 100, we're in the neighborhood. And here's problem number 5. The Gonzalez family is taking a cruise that costs $3,082.24 for a family of 4. How much does it cost per person? So we have the total cost, $3,082.24. And that's for the total cost, the whole thing. And we know that's for 4 people. So they're asking how much does it cost per person. So we're taking that total and we're splitting it up by 4. And we want to know how much would one of those chunks be. So anytime we're taking a total and we're splitting it up among a certain number, this sure sounds like division. So that's what we're going to do. And because there's a lot of numbers here, this is going to be on the longer side. I'm going to start right here. So I have $3,082.24 divided by 4. 4 does not go into 3, but it does go into 30 7 times. 7 times 4 is 28. I can subtract and get 2. Bring down the 8. 4 into 28 goes 7 again. That's going to go in perfectly, so I'll have nothing left over. Bring down the 2. 4 does not go into 2. It goes in 0 times. 0 times 4 is 0. I can subtract and get 2. Bring down the other 2. 4 into 22 would go 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20. Subtract. Get 2. Bring down the 4. 4 into 24 would go 6 times. And that's going to go in evenly, and I'll have nothing left over. So my final answer is $770.56 per person. Number 6. A cat spends 2/3 of its life asleep. If a cat lives for 15 years, how many years does it spend asleep? When we see this word of, this is one of our keywords that tells us to multiply. So the most straightforward way of doing this problem is to multiply. Well, it's not the only way. But let's do the multiplying. So 2/3 times 15. Anytime we have a whole number like 15, we can always put that over 1. And then once we do that, multiplying fractions, we just multiply straight across. 2 times 15 is 30. 3 times 1 is 3. So there's your correct answer, 30 over 3. But this is a fraction larger than 1, so we can reduce how many times would 3 go into 30, and it would go in a perfect 10 times. So our final answer would be 10 years. Another way to think about that is if I had 15 and I broke 15 up into thirds, then each of those thirds would be worth 5. 5, 10, 15. And the problem is asking us about 2/3. So it's asking us about this one and this one. There is 2/3 of 15. And 5 and 5 is, of course, 10. Number 7 says, a box of snack cracker packs weighs 28 1/2 ounces. Each pack weighs 4 3/4 ounces. How many packs are in the box? So, we have this box, and I know that the whole box weighs 28 1/2 ounces. And then there's like some snack packs in here. I don't know how many. But I do know that one snack pack weighs 4 3/4 ounces. So if I kind of put them all together, they'd equal 28 1/2. So, and if I took those 28 1/2 and split it up, I know that each one weighs 4 3/4. So this is a division problem. I'm taking that 28 1/2 and I'm dividing it into 4 3/4 size pieces, and then I'm going to see how many pieces I have. So the first thing I need to do is I need to convert these to improper fractions. So 2 times 28 is 56 plus 1 is 57 over 2 divided by 4 times 4 is 16 plus 3 is 19 over 4. And then I have to keep, change, flip whenever I'm dividing fractions. So when I keep, change, flip, I'll have my 57 over 2. That one I kept, this one I changed, and this one I flipped, 4 over 19. So I could just multiply straight across, but so 57, which is probably what most of you did, so 57 times 4, if you work that out on the side of your paper, you get that that is 228. And 19 times 2, if you work that out on your paper, you get just 38. So there's your answer, 228 over 38, but this is a fraction bigger than 1, so we would want to do some division. I'll be honest with you, this is not an easy division problem to do, because 38 doesn't go into 2, and it doesn't go into 22. So it's just going all the way into 228. So you may have tried like a guess and check sort of method, thinking maybe it went 4 or 5 times and worked that out. But it does go 6 times perfectly, and that gives us 228. So the final answer is 6 packs. Alright, 8a. What is the GCF of 24 and 56? We solved GCF problems by using the ladder method. So I'd have these two up, and then I start to build my ladder. And you're thinking of a number that's going to go into both 24 and 56. And maybe you think of 8. And 8 goes into 24 3 times, and 8 goes into 56 7 times. And then you say to yourself, is there anything that goes into 3 and 7 both? And the answer is no. So you are done, and here's your GCF. So we know that the GCF of 24 and 56 is 8. But what if you didn't guess 8 right off the rip? Well, there's other ways to do this. You might have said, well, they're both even, so I could just do 2. And that works. 2 goes into 24 12 times, and 2 goes into 56 28 times. And is there anything that goes into 12 and 28? Well, 2 again. So 2 goes into 12 6 times. 2 goes into 28. That would be 14. Is there anything that goes into 6 and 14? Well, 2 again. 2 goes into 6 3 times. 2 goes into 14 7 times. Oh, look, 3 and 7, just like we had before. And we talked about in class that if you have some numbers here on the outside, you multiply those together to get the GCF. So 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. So either way, you would get that final answer of 8. 8b says, what is the LCM, or least common multiple, of 12 and 18? Least common multiple problems we solve very similarly. We set up our ladder for 12 and 18. And again, maybe you thought of 3. How many times does 3 go into 12? It goes in 4 times. How many times does 3 go into 18? It goes in 6 times. Is there anything that goes into 4 and 6? Yes, 2. 2 goes into 2 goes into 4 2 times. 2 goes into 6 3 times. Is there anything that goes into 2 and 3? No, you are done. Now remember, to find the LCM, we are building this L here on the outside. L for LCM. See it? And we just multiply together everything that's in the L. So we have 3 times 2 times 2 times 3. 3 times 2 is 6. 2 times 3 is also 6. And if I multiply 6 times 6, I would get 36. So the LCM is 36. Just like with the previous problem, it's possible that you didn't do the same numbers I did. Maybe you saw these as even, so you started with 2. Well, that would go into 12 6 times and 18 9 times. And then 3 would go into 6 2 times, and 3 would go into 9 3 times. And you're still going to get the same least common multiple. When you build your L right here, you'll actually notice that the numbers inside my L are exactly the same. It's just the order that's different. And we know with the commutative property of multiplication that the order doesn't matter. So whether I multiply 3 times 2 or 2 times 3, the answer will be the same. And on this side, if I multiplied all those together, I'd get 36 as well. Number 9 reads, an animal shelter has 36 kittens and 12 puppies. What is the ratio of puppies to kittens? And they want to see that in 3 formats. So we're setting up some ratios. The important thing to know in a ratio is how is it being presented in the problem? And it's asking about puppies to kittens. So we need to present the ratio in that order, puppies to kittens, even though in the problem they gave us kittens first as our info. The question is puppies to kittens. So there are 12 puppies and there are 36 kittens. So we need to present our information in that order. So there's a few different ways to do a ratio. One is a fraction, 12 over 36. Another is using a colon, 12 colon 36, and we say that as 12 to 36. And the last is just to actually write what we just said, 12 to 36. So those are your 3 different formats for showing that ratio. Okay, here we have problem number 10. The library surveyed 160 people about their favorite type of movie. If 35% like science fiction, how many people chose science fiction? Well, hopefully you saw this as our part over whole percent over 100 proportion. And so we're going to set up our 2 equal fractions. And I do see a percent. I see 35%. So I can set that in over 100. And I also have 160. So I need to ask myself, is that the part or the whole? Well, the library is surveying 160 people. And some of them are going to like science fiction, but certainly some of them are going to like other kinds of movies. So that 160 is not our part. That's the whole number of people that got surveyed. So the part is what we're looking for. So now we can go ahead and cross multiply, but I'll tell you that these numbers are going to get pretty big. So things would be a little better for us if we could reduce this fraction over here first, this 35 over 100. And both 35 and 100 could be divided by 5. So if I divided them by 5, 35 divided by 5 is 7. So I could I could divide both of them by 5, and then I would be left with a fraction of 7/20. And so that's the fraction that I'm going to actually be using when I do my cross multiplying. So instead of multiplying 35 times 160, I'm actually going to multiply the 7 times the 160 because I've reduced this fraction. And then instead of multiplying the 100 times the x, I'm going to multiply the 20 times the x, and that's going to give me numbers that are a lot more manageable. So let's do that cross multiplying now. So I have the 7 times the 160 and the 20 times the x. Well, the 20 times the x is easy. That's 20x. The 7 times the 160, we're probably going to have to do that off on the side of our paper here. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 6 is 42. Put down the 2, carry the 4. 7 times 1 is 7, plus 4 is 11, so that's 1,120. Now to get x, I have to divide by that coefficient, the number out front, which is 20, and I have to do the same thing to both sides. Those will cancel, and I'll be left with just x. But of course I have to do that long division, so I'm going to make a little space for myself over here, and then I'll do the long division. So 20 into 1,120. Well, 20 doesn't go into 1, it doesn't go into 11, but it would go into 112, and it would go 5 times, which would give me 100. And then I would subtract and get 12. Bring down the 0. 20 into 120 will go 6 times, and that goes perfectly. I have nothing left over. So x equals 56. And this is asking me about people, so my final answer would be 56 people. Okay, well that is it for the first one. I hope that you liked the video. Hope that helped you to see answers for anything that you had questions on. And you can give Mrs. Weaver and I some feedback in the comments or via email so that we can help you better in the future. Have a great day.